How's it going, guys? This is the Xodus Spring Launch event. Today I'm sitting with Alex, Carter, and Pete, and we're gonna kind of give you a little bit of a rundown of what to expect coming up on this launch, as well as kind of doing a little quick recap on what already exists in our lineup. So let's get started. A lot of people watching may know some of us or the team from our sister company, Integrated Engineering. For the past 20 years, the team and the company has been developing Volkswagen and Audi software and hardware to make those cars way more fun. We decided to bring that same fun and thought process to the Ford EcoBoost line. And I wanted to start off by asking Pete, our CEO, why we decided to do that. So Pete, can you answer that for me?
It's actually pretty straightforward. So part of what we're trying to do in the Volkswagen Audi space is deliver a seamless package of upgrades to customers that makes it super easy and fun to mod your car and kind of get a lot of power out of your car. And in order to do that at the level that we want to do that, which is like we're literally attacking every cold air intake and every exhaust system and making sure that the design work is perfect, making sure that we have some awesome innovative features for every little step, literally going really deep on every single part. We have to kind of narrow our focus to only the most exciting vehicles where there's a lot of addressable audience, right? Where we can kind of justify that level of attention to detail and that level of work that we put into things. And, you know, there's huge ones in Volkswagen Audi, and we love those vehicles. The GTI, the R, the Audi S4, even some of the big V8 cars and stuff like that. There's a lot of meat there. But we don't want to get spread too thin. We kind of want to be able to go into a market and really attack. So we kind of made the decision along the way. We started looking for other large markets where we could justify that. And one of the other key requisites was that we like to play in boosted vehicles, turbocharged or supercharged. And the EcoBoost was just an obvious choice from that regard. The 3.5 EcoBoost has really nice gains when you tune it, and there's a lot of opportunity there. We're just getting going right now, doing all your basic stage 1 and stage 2 upgrades, but we're going to eventually do hybrids and stuff like that. So I've already been challenging these guys that we gotta beat the Raptor R's. So I'm really excited, but that's fundamentally the core reason of why we jumped. It's that combination of a great market that's a good fit for what we're trying to do with enough there for us to really want to do it and do it well.
So if you're just finding Xodus now, we'll kind of do a little quick recap about what we already have out on the market. So let's start with tuning, right? So Carter, kind of walk us through quickly what we have and what differentiates Xodus from the crowd of other tuners.
The biggest thing to me is our mobile flashing. We make this as accessible as possible for our customers. It all exists right in the palm of your hand. Flashing, data logging, code clearing, it's all right in our mobile app. It makes it very easy to install our product. But then of course the product stands for itself too. We do some really innovative stuff on the software, on the tuning side. Like we have our flex fuel kit for the second gen Raptors that's already out in the wild. So one of the awesome tuning features that we have is a real genuine CAN solution for picking up the ethanol signal for our flex kit. Instead of having an inferred value that it has to figure out as it drives, we pick up real sensor data, send it in on CAN, and the ECU receives that message, knows exactly what to do with it so that there's real live ethanol data inside the ECU being used to control the load request, control the fueling, make sure that everything is on target for where it should be without having to infer that data.
So for guys like me, speaking non-software engineer real quick.
Yeah, so Ford has always had a somewhat native flex solution that uses an inferred ethanol content. We skip that part, it's inaccurate. We send real live ethanol data right into the ECU, receive it, and do all of our tuning stuff with that so that everything is as accurate as possible.
And then they can view it right from the app on their phone.
Yeah, you're able to see your ethanol content right on the phone along with all of the other typical parameters like engine speed and boost pressure and all of that stuff too.
And that's important, right, from a safety perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Like without real data controlling things, it has to guess at a lot of things and ultimately, hopefully, it figures it out. But with real data, we're able to implement it in a safe way and add safety layers on top of that to have protections that we've custom coded to have it intervene when things aren't right or when it loses its ethanol signal.
Currently on the market, we have the 13th Gen 2.7 and 3.5, and then we have the 2nd Gen Raptor tunes already available and on the market. Kind of give me a quick breakdown on what you think is special about those tunes.
Yeah, so we focus on delivering the entire experience. We're not just out there chasing peak horsepower numbers. We really focus in on drivability. You can take it anywhere in the country and you know exactly how it'll behave because we test way up high in the mountains. We drive the cars down to sea level. We test in all kinds of ambient conditions and make sure that that truck is ready for whatever you throw at it. So we really attack it from a kind of a holistic view of drivability, power, and then just kind of added features like maybe we're disabling the auto stop start or getting rid of some of the known issues in the factory calibration and just making it a little more livable.
Yeah, I know that seeing our customers speak on our tunes, a lot of people just love our TCU calibrations and how it's smoothing out those 10 speeds because that's just a common pain point for a lot of EcoBoost owners. So that's been cool to see that feedback coming in. And yeah, you talk about the calibration between sea level and up here. We're in a kind of a unique position to where we can tune for the super high elevation, and then we usually send out guys to go drive these cars down for a long period of time at sea level and also do all the calibration there. So we are able to calibrate for the entire altitude range, which is really cool and I think pretty unique to our company.
Yeah, there's one important thing I think we should mention on these. The Ford market's different than the Volkswagen Audi market in a lot of ways. One big way is that for whatever reason in the Volkswagen Audi market, there's IE, there's APR and some others that do really heavy duty canned calibrations, right? Basically OEM level, like factory level. What I'm seeing in the Ford market is a little different. If you look at the calibration that you get on out of the box on a lot of the programmers, it's rough. They're touching just a couple of maps and you're seeing like 30, 40 horsepower sometimes on an EcoBoost. Whereas a custom calibration or the Xodus calibration, you're usually getting, 60, 70, 80, depending which truck and all that stuff. And one thing that I think is interesting that we should really focus on is the difference between a custom calibration and the Xodus out of the box calibration and how we do that. And I just want to explain a little bit. So the custom calibration is for your truck. However, it's for your truck at that place in that weather on that day. And you'll see a lot of times you go back and forth with the calibrator and they're tuning just a few maps to get the timing right or the boost right for those conditions. The way we do it is different. What we do is we tune for standard conditions, and then we test and we vary the atmospheric pressure and temperature, things like that, to all kinds of different conditions. And the way I like to look at it is it's actually more like getting a couple of hundred custom tunes inside the one ECU. Like if you look at, we're tuning 20 different pressures and 20 different temperatures, that's hundreds of combinations that we're testing for and building for and packaging into one tune. So it's a hugely powerful way of doing it. It's the way that Ford does it, or GM or anybody, Volkswagen, Audi does it for an OEM calibration. And that's why our calibrations deliver that custom power out of the box without all the back and forth. But it's also why our calibrations take us like 6 months or a year to develop, compared to, guys will be out on the market like 2 weeks after a new protocol drops or a new ECU is unlocked. I've even seen guys in like days. We just can't. We don't do that level of speed. It's because that depth and that layering that we do in there to be able to do that, so that when you hook up a trailer, the thing just works. You go down to sea level, it just works. You go to 10,000 feet, it just works.
We're digging much deeper to make sure it works how it's supposed to work.
So I think that fundamental, the way I like to think of it is there's like 300 or 400 different custom calibrations in there. And that's what's really cool with our base calibration before you even start talking about custom flex fuel or the fact that you can switch into tow mode without having to reflash or all these other cool things that we do that we're like, we just think are awesome and we do it after all that hard work, right? But anyway, yeah.
No, and
The difference between custom and IE or Xodus.
Yeah, exactly. And it is cool that we were able to take the technology and the work from IE and bring it to Xodus in the form of the PowerLink and the app, and translate some of the really hard work and groundwork that we did on that and bring it to this brand. And it is pretty wholly unique in this market. I mean, this market's pretty flooded with tuners and stuff that are, it's just a mass of wires and plugs and all this stuff. And it's like, you don't have to do that with us, which is pretty awesome. Alex, if we were to talk about kind of what we have already on the market, we have the 13th gen equal length pipe and the 13th gen catback. We have, like Carter mentioned, the flex fuel kit. We have a dash mount, and we have our beautiful leveling kit here. Give me just a quick little breakdown on some of these parts.
One thing that stands out is our Xodus intake, which fits all 3.5 trucks. Is first off, it's, in my opinion, a great looking intake, but also we made sure it's gonna perform.
It is a beautiful intake, and we even have the filter from it right here. It's, I mean, even the filter looks really good. Right. But yeah, actually, I don't know. Did you design this? Are you biased towards this?
I am a little biased towards it, specifically the filter and like the bell mouth part of it.
Okay.
But so the engineering side of things, yeah, I'm a little biased towards the looks, of course. But also in our testing, we found that the intake is no longer the cap on your power. And so the turbos aren't demanding a bunch of boost and the intake can't provide it with the Xodus intake. And the turbos can actually perform how they should, which gives you the overhead to go to larger turbos like
future-proofing a little bit,
and you're future-proofing your truck.
The bell mouth that's built into that Xodus intake, almost every single application of IE and Xodus intakes all have this. I remember I used to do a demo for people. We've just out of the shot over here, we've got a flow bench, and it's kind of a cool demo. You could take a 3.5-inch piece of pipe and hook it straight up to the flow bench, and you got that thing ripping. And you could take, this was our old assembly that you could use on, that we used on a lot of our open sheet metal intakes, but you'd put the velocity stack on there and the airflow would jump up a bunch.
Yeah.
But the cool part was, even with an air filter on, the air filter, velocity stack, and pipe combination flows more than just a wide open pipe by itself, which is just completely like, what? How could you ever stick an air filter on the end of a thing and have it flow more than just an open pipe?
Yeah.
Well, but that's literally what that technology does for you.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it has to do with it's giving it a smooth transition.
Yep.
Funnel
Really just packing it in, man.
Yeah.
So like with an open pipe, you would have a bunch of turbulence right at the inlet, whereas having a bell mouth is, like Pete said, it's cramming all that air in as efficiently as possible.
So then let's transition a little bit. I know that our equal length pipe and our catback that we already have on the market are really unique in the fact that they don't make it sound like a vacuum cleaner anymore. Can you kind of speak to the technology that you guys developed to help get rid of that kind of standard V6 EcoBoost sound?
Yeah, I think with like a V8, you can sometimes get away with just like a straight pipe truck and it's still gonna sound pretty good. But with these V6s, we found you have to be a little more careful. And I think that having a resonator, which our exhaust has, is a very important part. We also made sure that the muffler is gonna give you a sporty sound without being too ridiculously raspy. And then to complement that, like you said, we have our equal length pipe, and that takes the truck from sounding how it sounds stock to kind of more how like the 3rd gen Raptors sound. You're able to take your single exhaust 3.5 truck and make it sound a lot cooler.
Make it sound like a much more expensive truck, which is never a bad thing. You did kind of gloss over it, the fact that, like you just said, resonator. There was a lot. I know there was a lot of work that went into just the resonator and building our drone trap technology. Yeah. Can you give me or give the customers a little bit of a breakdown of what our drone trap is?
Our drone trap is a Helmholtz resonator for your truck, and it's gonna get those raspy and drony frequencies that you might find towing up a hill, and it's gonna make the truck a lot more livable and sound more refined.
Yeah, it's just helping you guys as engineers kind of narrow down what tones you want to get through the exhaust.
Exactly. It's pulling some specific frequencies that we found at specific temperatures out of the
More
hear.
importantly, getting the annoying tones out of the exhaust.
Yeah, I mean, I do 37 miles up over a mountain pass every day for my commute, and we tow a camper with our EcoBoost, and I'll never let these guys make anything that drones like hell inside the cabin, because I'll get a different car. So I can tell, like, most of that exhaust is either 3.5 inch or 4 inch, but even with that, it does not drone in the cabin. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
But the important part of that muffler is that it's very targeted. Like, you kill that annoying drone frequency, which is, everybody knows it, right? 2,000 RPMs, 2,200 RPM, somewhere right in there. You're going down the highway and it's just like, whoa. It kills that off, but at full throttle, it's essentially straight pipe. So when you're like really banging up the gears, it's loud and aggressive, which is what you want. This is kind of the way to have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't want to gloss over that, because I know all the work that went into that, and it's a really unique, special part of our exhaust.
For sure. Yeah, and that's kind of a new challenge with these F-150s is the 10R, the 10-speed, is they kind of like to, I mean, they shift all the time, and so if you get it wrong, you're going to be in that drone.
Yeah, you're going to be in that range all the time.
All the time. Whereas if you have like a 7-speed dual clutch or a ZF8 speed, it's going to shift a little bit more. But so yeah, that was very important for us to get right on these F-150s.
And I'm sure whenever Pete takes home a development car, you guys never hear about it on the way back if there's something wrong.
And to top it off with the exhaust, we did use 304 stainless steel, which means that even if you're taking it through a mud hole, you don't have to worry about it getting rusty.
And that is another kind of thing that we kind of pursue here, and we've done it in our testing methodology, is really test the hell out of our products and make sure that if there's going to be any problems, we find them well before they go to market, that type of stuff. Staying on hardware, we already kind of touched on TruFlex, but that's the software side of it. Carter, tell me a little bit about the TruFlex hardware that we have.
So yeah, we have this proprietary TruFlex box. This is how we receive the ethanol data and then send it into the ECU. So the kit consists of an ethanol sensor that you install into the fuel line, and then the wiring harness that routes to this and tees into the CAN bus in your truck. So it's super simple to use and install, and it's the most accurate way that you can have real ethanol data inside your truck's ECU.
Yeah, real data and real-time data that then gets fed back to the app for you to be able to see while you're filling up the truck, stuff like that. I know that on the second Gen Raptor, running ethanol on stage 2, we're at like 161 horsepower over stock, right?
Yeah, so ethanol is basically a golden racing fuel that you can get right at the pump. There's huge performance gains by having the extra fuel that it consumes and also the extra ignition timing that you're able to run. By having the knock resistance that ethanol has, we're really able to pick up some extreme horsepower. We can run higher boost, more timing, and we can optimize around that by using our TruFlex system.
Well, the main part is that we're not just running ethanol to run ethanol. We're running it in the safest way possible with our sensors. And it's not just, like you said, adding timing. It's knowing that you can add timing in real time.
Knowing when to add timing, knowing how much to add, all of that's very important. That's why we don't rely on an inferred value. We rely on real data that's sent into the ECU and accessible through the app.
We also kind of glossed over it, but I do want to really touch on the 10 speeds. I know just from seeing our customer base and kind of being in the community a little bit, the 10 speeds are a genuine pain point. How did we kind of approach, for lack of a better word, fixing those?
That's a lot of gears. 10 speeds, that thing is constantly second guessing itself. It's constantly shifting. It never seems to really know exactly what it wants to do. And one of the biggest things we focused on with the 10-speed transmission tuning is how to predict what gear it should be in based on the driver's input. So based on how far the pedal has been pushed and what the current engine speed and load conditions are, we've really refined all of the shift scheduling so that it knows exactly where it wants to go when you change your foot, and it knows exactly how to get there. And then on top of all the shift scheduling to make sure it knows what gear it's in, we went through and we smoothed it all out. It's no longer clunky, it's no longer uncomfortable, there are no weird jerks anymore. A big part of transmission tuning is making sure not only it knows what gear to get into, but how to get into it smoothly. So we've changed all of the clutch pressures and ramp rates and all of the associated mapping for that to make sure it can engage smoothly when you want it and firm when you want that sporty feel. So we've kind of separated out how we approach the low load condition drive, like typical drive scenario stuff, and then the more sporty full throttle driving. So you'll get a nice, clean, firm, solid feeling shift when you're at full throttle, and you'll get a buttery smooth transition between the gears when you're just driving.
Mainly, it just sounds like you made it intentional.
Very.
You made it predictable as well, rather than gear hunting, because no one's expecting gear hunting, right? So yeah, it sounds like you guys really cleared that up. And it's funny because if you go look at the reviews, I don't know when the last time any of you guys looked at the reviews on our page, I know that you did a damn good job, because people are buying power tunes and they're talking about the transmission tunes in the review. Like, that means that you guys did a really good job on that. So,
Well, this blue truck, I just drove that a couple of weeks ago, but Porsche, if you drive the dual clutch Porsches, they're basically the masters of the universe of that perfect, crisp, clean, but not clunky shift.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say that we're quite there, but those are $200,000 cars. And this is a 10-speed, not a Porsche dual clutch, but it's 80%. It's really, really good.
It's not a bad bar to aim for, right? Like,
yeah. So I'm like, we're not going to quite promise that, but we're pretty damn close. And I think this gearbox starts off like a drunken pirate compared to those things.
They're just kind of a mess and they're sloppy from the factory. We take it to where they should have been from the factory, and then we add our little extra on top of that.
I want to touch on really quick the idea of something that we do a little bit different, which is our Core, Pro, Apex terminology with how we deliver tunes to customers. The main idea is providing value to customers and allowing them to get what they want. But Carter, do you want to speak on that just a little bit?
Yeah, so ultimately it's about meeting the customer where they're at. If you want a really solid, well thought out base core calibration, that's what our core package is. It's everything that we do really well in a box, ready to flash. And that's what a vast majority of people are looking for when they get into tuning. They don't necessarily want all the advanced features right out of the box. They want to get in, get their feet wet, see what a tune is all about. So our core series is perfect for that. But then you get into the Pro and the Apex files. Our Pro file is where you'll start to find some of the more advanced features, maybe some of the TruFlex or our advanced tow mode and things like that.
My running joke is that core gets you in the door. It gets you a really, really well calibrated, like I said earlier, 100 custom calibrations shoved and packaged into one calibration that's just bulletproof, but not all the extra stuff that you may or may not want if it's just a daily driver casual build. And by the way, yeah, you can add on as you go.
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on. Is the cool thing is, yeah, you can start with the core tune and just kind of really, the core tune is realistically the best bang for your buck, right? Like, it completely transforms and wakes up these trucks. And when you decide, you're like, you know what, I want some more cool stuff, you can upgrade directly from your phone.
Right, and it's not like just because the core file doesn't have some of the more advanced features that maybe not everybody wants, doesn't mean we've cut any corners. It still goes through all of the validation, all of the protection testing, all of the beta testing. There's still a huge amount that goes into that core file. It's not like some half-baked, out-of-the-box tune. This is the full working solution for these trucks.
Well, and you still get a lot of really cool features just on the app by itself. On the core or on any of the tunes, the app in and of itself has a lot of really cool features built into it. So we've kind of covered what we have on the market now. Definitely go check out the site. You can kind of do a deeper dive on some of the stuff we didn't get into, like the leveling kit or the dash mount. Our dash mount system is really cool, but I won't stick on that. Go check out the site. We have something really cool, and I know that you guys have been working on it for a while, is the core tune for this big blue thing behind us, the 3rd Gen Raptor. Carter, do you want to kind of give me a quick breakdown of what to expect on that tune?
Yeah, so first of all, huge performance increases. If I'm remembering right, it was something like 80 horsepower and 125 foot-pounds over stock. So massive performance gains. All of our safety nets and safety strategies are built in, baked in real deep, where we go out and mask off the intercooler and send it all the way up the mountain and just really put it to the test. All of those safety strategies are built in, and we're really capitalizing on the fact that we can control the environment around us by hitting many, many different elevations and many, many different temperatures, whether we have to force it or not, in order to make sure that it's a calibration that I think Pete's kind of alluded to this a number of times. This is a custom tune, but it's basically 100 custom tunes because we've been everywhere with it. And huge horsepower gains, tons of drivability gains. It really just feels like a totally different truck. I was gonna say it feels like the way it should have come from the factory, but it's
We're beyond that for sure.
It feels great. It's an awesome, smooth truck in tandem with the TCU tuning. It just feels like a totally different animal.
Yeah. Well, Pete, I know that you spent some time actually driving this for a little bit. I don't know if this was data validation or what it was, but honestly, what's your honest feedback about what changed on this truck? Because you drove it stock and then with this core tune.
Yeah, well, the funny part is I drove it with the tune first and then went backwards, which was hilarious. But I mentioned it before. I mean, obviously the power is a big difference. I mean, it's trying to spin the back tires in second gear and stuff like that. And it's not like it puts you in the seat like a supercar, but it puts you in the seat for a truck. The big thing too, though, is the shift strategy and those nice gear changes. The funny part is when we went back, Max, the calibrator who was doing this, gave it back to me with stock software. And I went to pull out on the frontage road here. I was like, oh my God, it's like I'm stuck in a hole.
Yeah.
Because it's like in 10th gear going 30 miles an hour. It can't build boost and it doesn't want to go. It just is such a dog on stock calibration. So yeah, it's an absolutely night and day difference. Yes, you'll enjoy the extra 80 horsepower the 3 times a week you boost it, probably 30 times the first week. But the rest of the time too, the driving experience is just so much better.
Just an instant quality of life upgrade.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ford and in Volkswagen Audi, you know, when they build these things, unless it's like a GT3 RS or something, they like put 1,000 different guys in and say, well, what do you like? And it comes up as this thing. And we basically say, let's get rid of 970 of those people that wanted a couch.
Yeah.
And let's focus on the 10 or that 1% or 5% of customers that want that elevated driving experience and really deliver for them. And I think we've done that here.
No, and I would say that is something also that we do, and we kind of touched on this another time, but we'll usually take everyone that's on the insurance and have them kind of go drive it. And Carter kind of mentioned we'll do extreme things like block off the intercooler, that's for safety testing. But we have a lot of different types of drivers here, and we have a lot of different types of enthusiasts. And for us all to kind of be in the same mind of like, this is awesome now, is a pretty high bar to meet.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like an awesome truck now.
For that tune, can you kind of speak a little bit on how the current Xodus intake and something we'll talk about in a minute, which is the new Xodus intercooler, kind of go hand in hand with that tune? Because like we said earlier, we developed the software and the hardware to work together. So can you speak to me a little bit on how the tune takes advantage of those?
Yeah, so let's focus on the intake first. It's an airflow bottleneck, essentially. Like by removing that bottleneck, we are allowing the turbos to breathe, which means it can meet the boost request a little easier, which means we can pump up that boost request for that, ultimately for the horsepower that we're looking to get out of it on the dyno. And by removing the bottleneck and having Alex's awesome CFD work and all of the flow bench testing and all of the modeling to make that airbox perfect, we really remove that stress that sits in front of the turbo and allow those to breathe nice and free. The calibration takes that into account in a number of different ways for pressure drop calculations, and basically how it looks at ambient pressure and the pressure drop through the filter in order to calculate how to meet the current boost request. All of that has been considered based on both the stock intake and our upgraded Xodus intake to make sure that it knows how to deliver that boost accurately and precisely.
Yeah, so it'll still function fantastic on the OE intake, but our intake will basically just open up and allow it to take advantage of that extra.
Yeah, yep, and it can do it without working quite as hard and just knows exactly what to do with it.
And I feel like that's a good transition point to talk about when the truck is working hard for a long period of time. We now have our Xodus intercooler, which takes advantage of our FDS system that came from integrated all the way back in the day that Pete and Dave developed that, and we've taken that technology and put it into the Xodus intercoolers. Alex, can you speak a little bit about the development process for this Xodus intercooler?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we noticed when putting these trucks on the dyno immediately was how hot the IATs got with the stock intercooler. And so we set out to make a better intercooler to keep the IATs down on a tuned truck like this. And we also didn't want customers to be chopping their truck up, getting into the radiator support and things. So to really utilize the full space that is there from the factory, the only way to go was, well, we maximized the surface area, but also the depth was the big gain in core volume. And so that's where the FDS fins, like you mentioned, are a big factor. We saw that naturally the air just wants to kind of pool up against one side of the intercooler. Differently from anything we've done in IE before, all of the FDS fins for IE spread the flow vertically across the front of the car, whereas this spread it depth-wise.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's kind of unique.
So yeah, it's just able to, again, in tandem, you keep the truck from heat soaking, and naturally that's not going to pull timing.
Right, so on the calibration side, all of that heat that is generated when the turbos are working really hard and the stock intercooler heat soaks instantly, it's going to pull power. And it should pull power. It's meant to do that. It's going to pull timing down to avoid knock activity. It's going to decrease the boost request. So all of those safety strategies, they should be there. We still use those. These trucks with the stock intercooler, they're going to get into regions of the map that bring power way down. And that's totally fine. Our calibration strategy sticks to that, and we do it to the safe limit everywhere. But with an intercooler like that that's able to keep up with all of that extra boost, it doesn't have to drift into those regions of the map. So the regions of the map that are addressed by lower temperatures, we're able to sit in those for a lot longer because that intercooler that has much more thermal mass and much more cooling capability keeps it sitting there where you can operate at peak power without dipping down off to the corner that we had to reduce it to keep things safe.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny when you actually see the stock one next to ours, it's almost hilarious how much bigger ours is. Another important thing is we keep kind of talking about the idea that all of this is developed together, but an intercooler is genuinely one of those modifications that if you did nothing else is still beneficial for your truck. If you're gonna use your truck as a truck and you want to keep the IATs down, just the heat down in general, it's a great thing to have, and then just the tune takes advantage of that more. And it isn't just, the initiative wasn't just make it as big as possible. I mean, I know that there was a lot of thought into just the overall design of it, and just as you guys were developing, I remember you came up with a drain plug because EcoBoost and just blow by and oil getting stuck down there. So kind of talk me through the larger scope of engineering and design.
Yeah, so like you touched on, it is a huge intercooler, and we made sure that it's compatible with normal 3.5 F-150s as well as Raptors that have the extra oil cooler down there. Yeah, making sure it's compatible with all those trucks was important to us. It also uses a bar and plate core, which is very efficient and just as quality as you can be. And also, like you said, we put some drain plugs in it this was just kind of honestly a little bit of a personal touch. Every time I would pull an intercooler off a truck, I noticed it would have some oil in it. Yeah, we just addressed things as we found that fit the truck well, so yeah.
So you're saying that you just got really sick of dripping oil all over your face and you thought, I'll fix this.
Yeah, we can reserve the swear words of me dumping oil on myself.
So Alex, I know that there's one other feature on the new intercoolers that I think is pretty important. It's our grip lock system. Can you kind of speak on what made us go that route in the first place and then how you guys fixed it?
Yeah, So our grip lock system is on the inlets to this intercooler, and it's essentially like small ridges that go underneath where the hose clamp compresses the hose so that the hose is deforming into the ridges. And that's basically so that you don't have your inlets coming off over time. So you can install it and not have to worry about it.
It gets a good bite underneath the
Exactly.
hose.
A bite's a great way to put it.
Another random question that we actually get a lot, and I think that it's funny because we have a lot of acronyms around here, right? FDS. Explain to me what FDS is and what it actually stands for.
Yes, FDS stands for Flow Distribution System, and it's our fins that are internal to the intercooler end tanks, and they help direct the flow that comes into the intercooler across the entirety of the core instead of just flowing through like right by the inlet.
We have one more piece that is a small piece, but it's a really important piece, especially for kind of future-proofing guys that want to do kind of bigger turbo stuff, which is our turbo flange. Kind of walk me through that and kind of give me a base idea of what it is first.
Yeah, we saw a lot of opportunity with this part. This is what connects the hot side of the turbo to the downpipe or catalytic converter. Ford has like a flange combined with a donut gasket. And from factory, it's quite restrictive. It matches up to the factory turbo and then goes down even further in diameter. For being a cost-effective part is fine, but we wanted to go above and beyond for that.
I was gonna say they also made it, I think, out of iron as well, and ours is billet, so it's just from a material standpoint is a much nicer product, but then also we're opening up the restriction.
Yeah, so we matched the inlet of our turbo flange to larger turbos like Power Max. And so you're future-proofing your truck for when you want to go to more power down the line. Mm-hmm. And another big part of making this part future-proofed was the hardware. The studs that Ford provides from factory are
always break.
Very difficult to get off. There's not really you have to use a stud extractor to get it off pretty much.
Yeah.
So in order to future-proof that, we include hardware that replaces these factory studs and allows you to actually put a socket on it.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, we also have a sensor port on there.
Yes, we also have a port for an EGT. So, I mean, kind of different from IE. This is a truck. You're going to be towing with it, and also, of course, when you're pushing more power, you want to keep an eye on your EGTs. So
now there's a port you can thread directly into that.
Yep, right after the turbo.
It's been awesome to hear that Carter and his team wrapped up the core tune on the second Gen Raptor. And we have another cool piece of hardware coming out for that, which is the second Gen Raptor catback.
Yeah.
Kind of talk to me about what we learned from the 13th Gen F-150 exhaust we already have on the market and how we brought that over to this exhaust.
Like you said, we have the 13th Gen single exhaust on the market already. And we learned a lot of things that we want to do again with that. For example, the boxed hangers that we have on the single exhaust catback, we brought to the second Gen Raptor catback. We wanted to have the same style with the stamped end tanks that look beefy, but since it's an oval shape, they're really strong.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was actually like a structural rigidity thing, but it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's dual 3-inch exhaust and also has big 5-inch exhaust tips out the back.
I will say those box hangers, they almost looked over-engineered, but for anyone that's had an aftermarket exhaust on their car that a hanger broke, you immediately are just like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
And so when you see those, you're like, oh, wow, they also look really cool too.
Yeah, and that's something that was unique for us to bring to Xodus over some of our IE products, was because this is a truck that's going to be off-road. We want to make sure it was really beefy and is really going to handle the dunes or whatever you're up to.
And that's the thing is, like, if you're using these trucks how they should be, you're probably, driving them pretty aggressively. And we wanted to engineer stuff that wouldn't fail. So that's fantastic.
I mean, I think the main thing on these exhausts is we took all of that work we did to get the 3.5 EcoBoost to sound good. The Helmholtz muffler in there, the little resonator, all that stuff, that combination of parts that ended up making it sound good, along with the ELP, the equal length pipe that's available, and repackaged all of that to fit on the Raptors, right? Because ultimately that's the thing is, how do you get a high flowing exhaust out of this that's good for a lot of power and a lot of performance, but doesn't sound like crap? It doesn't sound like a Lamborghini V10, but I think for a 3.5 EcoBoost, we've made it sound pretty damn good. So I think that's really the big secret recipe that we've kind of pulled over to this kit as well, right?
Yeah, that was definitely one thing we found with the 13th gen single exhaust is we wanted to really get rid of the drone.
Yeah. Well, we messed with that for what, 6 months?
Yeah, long time.
I don't remember how many combinations of mufflers and things, but it was a lot of work to get where we had a recipe for these trucks that we were all really happy with.
So it was, yeah, good to bring that same recipe from those trucks to the 2nd gen Raptors.
Well, we kind of mentioned it earlier in the video about stuff that we do have out already, and you had mentioned the equal length pipe, which I believe is sitting underneath the table right here.
Yes, it is.
This giant metal pretzel under here. But let's dig into that a little bit. What was kind of the reasoning behind why we made it? Every F-150 guy right now already knows that answer, but let's talk about why we made it, and then what made ours unique, or why we decided to make that paired up with our catback.
Yeah. So we made this because a lot of people here in the office like the sound more of a 3rd gen Raptor that has a factory almost equal length exhaust. Some people say it sounds more like a Ford GT that has the same motor.
It's not a bad thing to compare it
Definitely
to, right?
not a bad thing. So we wanted to bring that same equal length sound to single exhaust trucks. That's what we did. We wanted to make sure that it's compatible with our catback or stock exhaust. It doesn't change the volume at all, it just changed the tone, and it fits in the place where the stock downpipes live. So there's not any crazy compromises that you have to make.
Cutting anything up like crazy. Like it's just I think it's one cut on the standard pipe, but then it's just a slip on and all that. And I know that the sound is definitely a problem in the community for those engines, and it sounds pretty awesome.
Pretty drastically different with the equal length pipe, for sure.
Yeah. The equal length, like you said, doesn't change the volume, just change the tone. So we were able to kind of manufacture that good sound, and then like, hey, if you want it louder, by all means, we got you there. Another product that I know we kind of glossed over early on, but I feel like it's kind of fun to talk about, is our dash mount system. I know that we paired up with M-Lock to create the best thing that we could. Kind of tell me about the reasoning behind where we went with it.
We found that the spot on the top of the dash with the little rubber pad, which doesn't really fit quite right.
It kind of wasted space.
It's kind of wasted space. So we wanted to utilize that. We wanted to have, like you mentioned, M-Lock mounting, which if you're in the firearm community, if you have an AR, you're probably familiar with M-Lock. M-Lock. So it's the same M-Lock, which means that you only have to have a tool from the top. You don't have to like take it all apart to install a new thing.
We found a really great solution that already existed. So it's like, hey, let's talk to them and see, so it worked out great.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you have a really rigid mounting bracket, I guess you could call it. And we wanted to make sure that it was really user friendly. So it comes with a template, so you know exactly where everything needs to go.
Install's super easy.
Yeah, and we have our charging block that comes with it. And again, we wanted to make sure that this was an easy installation. So it already has a harness that ties into the factory.
Yeah, literally plug and play.
Plug and play, for sure.
No cutting or anything like that. So
you can have stuff charging.
I think it's 3 USB-Cs, right?
4, I think.
Four, yeah. So
you have fast charging capability too from that. And say you could have your iPad with your off-road map, and you can have it
walkies and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's wide enough. I've seen it's wide enough that like you can have multiple arms coming off that thing, and there's several different rows. I think this was Corey's project, right?
Yeah, this was Corey's project, and I mean, he just like his personal investment is he's a really big Jeep guy, and so we brought that kind of just like passion for off-road.
We try not to acknowledge that.
Yeah, he's very experienced in the scene, and so seeing his experience come into that product was really cool.
Yeah, you think about the fact that he's had similar products or whatever, and he knew what he would want, right? So he was engineering this off of his experience and his desires, knowing what the customer would want, and I think it turned out pretty awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we want to make sure it was super modular. There's a 1-inch ball that can move anywhere along the M-Lock rails. You can mount whatever you'd like to it, and anywhere you'd like.
And I know that piece is a really nice black anodized bit of military grade metal, yeah?
Yeah, and we we're pretty particular about the anodizing we picked on that, because if you've had just an anodized part, you might know that with some UV exposure, it starts to discolor.
Turns purple, right?
It turns purple if it's black usually. So we went with like an architectural grade anodizing on that part because we realized it's in the dash. It's literally in the sun all the time. So yeah, that was important for us.
Smart, forward thinking. The last little bit that is currently on the market with Xodus, or has been on the market with Xodus, is our leveling kit. Alex, tell me a little bit about the reasoning behind how we approached on the surface, kind of a simple product.
We made out of 6061 T6 billet aluminum, so it's gonna last forever and outlast your truck really. And we also just wanted to be user-friendly, and so instead of having long travel or anything like that, this is a great way to get a couple more inches out of the front of your truck and fit bigger tires and make it look meatier.
So speaking on the Core Pro Apex structure of how we're selling tunes, Pete, kind of walk me through the reasoning behind why we're doing this and how we kind of got to deciding to go this direction with selling them.
There was a couple of reasons, and they kind of intermingle. But the first reason was that we serve a broad range of enthusiasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody from a guy who's like just put on his wheels and tires and an exhaust, and this is his first tune ever, to the guy who's like dying and waiting and banging the table for us to come out with hybrid turbo ethanol tune, whatever, right? And they're not all the same, and they don't all want the same things, especially when it comes to the more motorsport or interesting, kind of more challenging features like flex fuel, or even some of the auto tow and other stuff. So some guys really just want the extra 70 or 80 horsepower. My favorite thing with EcoBoost is to blow the doors off old diesels from a railroad crossing or whatever when I'm towing, right? That's all they want. So they just want a really well-engineered, super proven, bulletproof calibration. And that's really what you get in Core. As you kind of start to tip up the spectrum, you get guys that want more and more advanced stuff. And so that's why we built out the Core Pro Apex kind of methodology and the way we structure our offering. And the other reason is that historically, we have bundled those along with what in the German scene anyway is called the hardware stages, right? Like stage one's typically your stock hardware, definitely always stock downpipes or stock catalysts. And it used to be historically you couldn't get a lot of those features with stage one files. Like we would basically only package the most enthusiasty stuff with the most enthusiasty levels of tune. And this is a way that you can kind of get exactly what you want out of your tune and not a bunch of stuff you don't want to. And because of that, we're able to also make Core a much more approachable price point as well. So you can kind of get what you need for the build you're doing, get the features and the power and the support for the hardware you want without paying for like a crazy load of enthusiast motorsport grade stuff that you might not even care about.
Yeah. So on the surface, it seems a little bit more complicated, but it's a way to ensure value for everybody.
Sure.
And also just make sure that like you're only paying for what you want, right? You're not paying for a bunch of features that you may never use, right? It's like, I want this out of my truck. I can get that.
And
right?
You know, another important thing to realize, and I think people don't always, is that we build it in a way that it's modular too. So you can come in and be that guy that's just, this is your first tune ever, and you grab a Core file. And then you know what? You watch like 700 or 800 too many TikTok reels and you want to go hybrid turbos and ethanol and all that stuff. You can just do the upgrades as you go. So it's not a new $800 or whatever to jump into an Apex file. It's just the difference.
Yeah, you can start picking out the features that you want.
You can just add that stuff whenever you want and upgrade as you go.
So what's included in Core Pro and Apex? We talked about how Core can essentially just be the base file.
Sure.
But what else is included across Core Pro and Apex?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is it varies. So in some broad strokes, and it varies because every platform is not the same. And so sometimes we get into the throes of like hardcore engineering and you're like, look, this platform doesn't need this thing. So the base is core files, like I said, that they're what get you in the door. They have support for your stock hardware, which is what we call stage 1. And it's just a super well-engineered tune that does all that all-weather performance, towing, whatever you're doing, it's going to support it. When you jump up to Pro, that's where we see the biggest jump in sort of usually power upgrades on the stock turbos and stock downpipes on the Fords. This is where you usually get support for more boost with intake and intercooler and things like that. And we also start to throw in things like support for ethanol when we have it. Then you also get things like the auto tow feature, which I love. I tow with my F-150, and I can tell you when it's 100 degrees out and I'm hot and sweaty, and I just finished doing my equalizer bars and stuff, the last thing I want to do is reflash the truck behind the shop out here.
Yeah.
This is just, when you switch into tow mode, we custom coded in all that mapping. So it actually switches to a real tow calibration right there when you put it in the factory tow mode. So things like that are more convenience, that's what we start to package into like Pros. Apex tune we don't have available yet for Ford, but we're going to. That's where we hit the real motorsport stuff.
Yeah.
You start getting into like rolling anti-lags, all of the adjustable features we just dropped for Volkswagen Audi, things like that. It is the full IE experience, or in this case, the full Exodus experience. And the other thing is when we get there, which we will on Exodus, you have to be on Apex to be able to buy the tuning support, which is separate, for hybrid turbos. And we do that because it is such a small market in terms of percentage of people that are doing that.
It's just a different level of
it's
customer.
Really taking it up a notch.
Yeah.
And it is a huge amount of engineering to do the hybrid turbo support in a way that's super safe for vehicles. So we always package that as sort of our highest level.
We did structure a lot of this to make sure that there was value for people.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. And the customer group is small, but they're rabid.
Yep.
Right. So it just made sense to kind of break it up that way. And if you are the guy that just wants a core tune, that's great. You're saving some money there. And then eventually you'll work your way up because your butt dyno gets used to it.
Power is addicting.
Yeah, power is addicting. So yeah. Well, thank you guys for like taking a minute to sit down with me and kind of talk with me about this and kind of express all this really cool stuff that's coming out that the customers can look forward to. Let's kind of go down the line and just give a quick little recap. Alex, what have you got for us for hardware?
So EcoBoost F-150 owners, including 13th gen, 14th gen, 2nd and 3rd gen Raptors, can be excited for our FDS intercooler. 2nd gen owners have our catback coming to their trucks. And we also have the turbo flange for 13th gen and 2nd gen Raptors.
All right, Carter, what do people have to look forward to in terms of software?
Yeah, so the 3rd gen Raptor guys have our core tune coming. It's awesome drivability increases, awesome cool features built in, and tons of power on the table now. And that's us just getting started. We've got plenty more to come to really flesh out those Pro and Apex tiers for our full offering.
All right, Pete, do you have one last message for our customers?
What I'm really excited about is that the full package is starting to come together for some of these trucks. I mean, if you look at what we do on the integrated engineering side, we really have what you need to get from a stock like 220 or 230 horsepower GTI to like 500 horsepower or more. So about 2 times is what we usually get. And S4s, we go, from whatever they are, 350 to 700.
Yeah.
And we do that and we make it turnkey for people. So we're starting to see that come together here, and it's been a bit of a soft launch, but I'm so excited to get these Raptors and the regular F-150s to a place where we have that everything from that basic core tune to like intercooled ethanol drinking hybrid
Monster.
turbo 35 pounds of boost monster that just tears the tires off. And it's coming together. It's starting to get going. So for you guys out there that are early adopters, thank you guys so much for being patient with us and being, having some trust in us at the beginning here. We get out of bed for you guys, enthusiasts, and even just people that love their trucks. We're so excited to just be able to serve you guys. So absolutely stay tuned for what's coming. Enjoy these new parts. We've got some awesome stuff there. And, check out the website to get the full details on everything that you can do for your build.
Thank you guys again for watching. Let us know if you like this structure and just kind of sitting down and having a conversation. And we look forward to the launch.